Hello everyone, my name is Tikhon Pachin, and this is my PechaKucha Resubmission for ECE49401 called How to Start a Metal Band, and I have tried to improve on the presentation based on the feedback that I have received after the initial submission. So here we go. Before you start a band, you need to acquire certain skills like playing an instrument. There are many choices that you face like string instruments, percussions, keyboard, and others. You have to choose one or two and build a band around you and your skills, or find a band that needs your particular instrument in their roster. When you acquire the needed skills and find a band, you need to start investing your money. Participating in such activities can be very costly. For example, I have chosen guitar, and a decent instrument alone costs at least $1,000. You also need live performance and recording equipment like amplifiers and headphones. On this picture, you can see actually the very bare minimum that you need. A typical metal band consists of 4 to 5 people. If it is a 4-member band, then you usually have a guitarist, a bassist, a drummer, and a vocalist. If it is a 5-member band, then you usually add either another guitarist or a keyboardist. My band has fluctuated from being a 6-people band to now actually 4. When your band is assembled, you need to find a rehearsal spot. Some bands initially rent out in special places that are built for the purpose. Those cost $1, and some bands scramble their last resources just to be able to practice. We've done it for a long time when we started. However, at some point you need to create or build a private studio or private spot that you can access 24/7 to rehearse. Rehearsals are generally the most important step in the process and need to happen continuously and often. Typically, a new band will rehearse at least once a week for 3 hours. However, the goal for any band is to practice together at least 3 times a week and individually every day. That is also a good screening process because the people who are not suitable for tour life cannot uphold the expectation of the rehearsals. When the songs are complete and rehearsed, the band has to record them. This is a very costly adventure. Thus, before entering the recording studio, you need to practice your songs to the state of absolute perfection. The less mistakes you make, the faster you record. The faster you record, the less money you spend. This is a crucial and a very lengthy step, but without it, the world will never hear about you. Before releasing an album, you also have to spend $1 on artwork for the album. On this slide, you can see some of the famous artworks from the 90s that have conquered the world. This type can vary in terms of price. Some artists charge you over $1,000 for an album cover. We were lucky and we found an artist that only charges us like $50 per an album cover, which is a steal. Once all the preliminary steps are complete, you need to think about the photo shoots. You want people to associate your music with you, and you don't want to post cheap selfies from rehearsals with your buddy bandmates. You need to hire professional help that will make pictures that you should be able to look at years down the road and not be embarrassed. Now, it is time for you to start thinking about your first live performance. In my opinion, live gigs are the best reason to start a metal band. They are the most fun that I have ever experienced so far. But you need to spend yet another bunch of money on advertisement. People will not show up to your show unless you keep bugging them for weeks non-stop, and even then your first show will probably be a flop. However, those who do show up will start talking about you to their friends. As the date of the concert approaches, you realize that you do not know how to set up the stage. Not to worry, set it up exactly like you would at your rehearsal studio, and then just make some adjustments to the audio settings and your amplifier placement so that people can hear you from the audience. That does, however, mean that you will have to bring most of your equipment from the studio, which takes a lot of time and effort. Now the show starts and you need to work. These will be the most intense 40 or 50 minutes of your life, but they are 100% worth it. You also do not regret the cardio exercises that you've been doing for the past couple of years, because let me tell you something, a good show can feel like you just ran a marathon. That said, you must keep yourself in shape to be able to perform at your best. One of the most important elements of the gig is the show. Some large bands use fire, water, steam, light, and other stuff. As a beginner metal band, you may not have such resources. What you might want to invest in is a smoke machine that will quickly raise the bar of the show that you put on. It is important to remember that this is your show and you can do whatever you want to it. As you start a band, you need to understand that interaction with your fans and audience will be inevitable, otherwise you will not achieve the desired result of being famous. Now, you also need to understand that the interactions must happen both on and outside of the stage. During shows, it is usually the vocalist who talks to the crowd. Behind the scenes, everybody has to do it, including the musicians. Appropriate attire for the live performances can also play a major role in other people liking your music. It sounds weird, but it's true. If you show up to your gig in your home clothes, nobody will want to look at you or listen to your music. You need to create an atmosphere that relates to your musical statement. Black metal is a good example of this, since almost all of them wear what's called corpse paint. Another important consideration is that you have to be flexible with your role in the band. When you become a band member, you almost intrinsically learn how to play other instruments as well, at least at the beginner level. Life happens, members leave. It is really hard to find a substitute for a drummer, a bassist, or a vocalist, so at least 2 members of the band should know each one of those instruments. Once you master the art of live performances, you may consider shooting music videos. This is a great way to combine your appearance with your music. People like listening to music in general, but it is a lot more memorable and fun and captivating if you have a visual over it. My band has created 3 videos so far, and if you think about it, most of the hits that you can think of right now, I can bet there's a music video over it. In my opinion, the best part of such a life is touring, though. My band has toured around the south of Russia twice, and it was truly a blast. It costs a lot of money if you do not have a label supporting you, but this gives you a decent exposure in other cities outside of your hometown. That said, you have to spend weeks on a bus, and the slide showing you is actually a big band tour bus. When you tour, you also get a chance to visit all of the cities that you've never even thought of visiting before. You get to explore, to learn about the history, the culture. When you have a regular job, you don't do it. You only get the chance to do that on a vacation or on a weekend. As a musician, this is basically your job. Depending on how well you advertise yourself at the chosen locations, you may even break even at the end anyway. However, the most important thing to remember about this is to make sure that you are having fun. You should only do this if you are truly passionate about it. Otherwise, everything will seem like an inconvenience and just a waste of money. This is a job, and you must love it to enjoy it. Anyway, thank you for your time, and thank you for your feedback.